Okay, everyone, welcome to Eurofiles. New feature, Screws and Dudes. Hey, Madi,
Hi, Monique.
here we're going. Okay, so this week, all right, and hopefully in weeks to come, we'll be going through all of those people that we just either love or hate, okay, and especially in terms of geopolitics and whatever they're doing, all right, on the international stage, all right?
So, lots of warning, very subjective, and
Yeah.
with our own biases.
Exactly, exactly. So just keep that in mind as we're going through. And if any of you want to put something in the chat, I hope I can keep up with it. I'm not entirely sure because I've never done that before, but I'll certainly try. All right. And then let's just get going. I say we just get into it. First, right on my list, number one in the Scroods, we're going to do the Scroods first and then the Dudes second. Scroods. We're talking about Orban and Fico, okay? And this week, because they have blocked once again any significant action that could have been taken by the European Commission in terms of the 18th sanctions package. So that's why they're on the list. Okay, they've delayed the reduction in the price cap. Okay, that we've all been talking about, hoping that we could bring it down towards $40, right, a barrel, right, Maddie? And also total ban on Russian imports, especially energy products, by the end of 2026. That was on the table and not anymore. So they basically just extended whatever they had, and not impressive whatsoever. Another thing as well is that we have to remember that Fico and Orban, it's a constant action that they do in order to block anything that's really significant. They also represent a bloc of nations. I don't think they're alone, Madi. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, because another country that is frequently overlooked is Austria. And I think one of the reasons why we don't really pay attention to it that much, well, at least in the press, is because Austria is not part of NATO, but they are part of the EU, and they try to keep a low profile. We'll remember articles from a couple of years ago, shortly after the outbreak of the full scale invasion, where media publicly recognized Vienna as a hotspot for Russian intelligence activity.
That's right.
And we have other candidates in there, but we'll abstain for now.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see when they come up in the news. When they no, they often do. Second on the list, all right, and this is let's say one of mine, the Georgian Dream Party, okay, in Georgia, for jailing opposition members and also for passing bills that limit the freedom of expression and media, okay, itself. They have tons of bills that they've been passing since they gone in through their, let's say, fixed election, the fraudulent election that has been documented by several, but four, I believe, international groups, independent international groups. Here we're talking about, all right, opposition members being hauled off. And here we're talking about 60 plus political prisoners as of now, 6 out of 9 opposition leaders who are in jail. Okay, so that's another one there. Okay, back to you, Mani. Go ahead.
Yes, some of the other people that we should note is the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte. He's on the list for multiple reasons.
Okay.
First, he failed to have a productive conversation with the Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez. More on him a bit later. And shortly before the summit of NATO countries in The Hague. And then at The Hague, we saw the infamous daddy expression when he referred to Trump. Yes, of course, this reference could be interpreted in multiple ways. One of them would be as an ultimate form of flattery, trying to appease the sense of ego of the American president. But another one is could be interpreted as a mild insult. Either way, given that NATO is an alliance of equals, at least on paper, and we have high profile leaders of the countries present at the summit, I would assume that it would be best to use a bit more modicum of decorum in such a high profile setting.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Going back to the Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, of course, he decided not to commit to the NATO-wide 5% of the GDP on defense spending. And it's important to outline that this 5% commitment is not for military only. 1.5% is dedicated to critical infrastructure, so things such as tunnels, bridges, roads, and so on and so forth. And it doesn't necessarily mean that whatever money is being spent on these needs will translate into an expanding budget hole for the respective countries, because it also provides an economic boost to activity in the countries where the spending is happening. So through increased economic activity, we actually might see some of the money being returned. And in some countries, it might even revitalize the overall economy. But a lot of moving parts, so let's not delve into it right now. Another reason why Pedro Sanchez is on the list is circling back to the 18th package that was that Fico and Orban blocked. Sanchez also had a few choice words to describe it, where he referenced the package as a measure of double standards. Of course, he was trying to compare the conflict in Gaza to the actions of Russia. So, at least in my view, he was trying to compare apples and oranges. Another candidate is coming from a country that recently joined NATO, specifically Finland. The former head of civil intelligence or secret police in Finland, Supo, and the current Secretary of the Parliament, Antti Pelteri, is under investigation.
Yep.
In fact, his role as the Secretary of the Parliament is suspended until the completion of the investigation. But the charges that he's facing are related to treason and inappropriate sharing of information. So it's kind of hard to see what's exactly is unfolding, because the Finnish authorities are not exactly forthcoming with the details of the investigation. So we're closely tracking the story. But for now, I'd like to remind you that back in 2023, FSB arrested a number of alleged Finnish agents or Russian citizens who were working in the interests of the Finnish intelligence. Whether the two are connected remains to be seen.
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, on the list of screws, we have the country of Turkmenistan. I have trouble pronouncing the name of the national leader, so I'll abstain for now.
I'm going to try it.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Not for now. It's unusual. Exactly.
Yes. So the foreign minister of Russia, Lavrov, traveled to Turkmenistan this past week. It seems that it's happening hot on the tail of the American operation in Iran. But what is interesting to note is that just a few hours before Lavrov's plane landed in Turkmenistan, Marco Rubio gave the foreign minister of Turkmenistan a call. So the United States is keeping an eye on the region, which is good to see.
Yes, exactly. I agree, because it's an area, geopolitically speaking, that is extremely important. All of the South Caucasus and also Central Asia. There have been some moves, for example, also from EU, who has gone to Uzbekistan, for example, and I believe Azerbaijan as well. There was a summit that was put together for the central, let's say, the Central Asian countries. So this is an area that very few people pay attention to. We will be, in the future, because we think it's significant as a geopolitical player. Also, we mentioned this as well from another point of view. We feel that diplomatically, the area itself deserves attention. Has not had enough attention in the past. It's an area where you really have to roll with the players, that you're offered there. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Madi, but we've got China on one side, we've got Russia to the north. It's and also in the south, all of the Middle Eastern countries. So they're dealing in a very particular geopolitical atmosphere, and operating in that kind of area. So if we do have allies, for example, in the area, we should be bolstering support towards those allies, and trying in some way or another to get let's say, deeper diplomatic ties, that kind of thing. So that's that. But Turkmenistan is on the no-no list, okay, for the time being. I would like to mention another one, Madi, if I could. The Rail, Maritime, and Transport Workers Union, okay, in the UK, for voting to sabotage British military aid to Ukraine. And this amounts basically, if we're going to be talking about it in this way, unilateral disarmament of Ukraine. This is something that I can tell you that we've been monitoring in Italy since the get go with the full scale invasion, okay, of Ukraine by Russia. And there are a lot of labor, there's a lot. There's a very large labor union also in Italy that has been pushing for this. All of the micro parties and also, let's say, populist, anti establishment populist parties have been pushing for this kind of thing as well. So it was not good to see, okay? Rail, Maritime, and Transport Workers Union get out and, okay, vote on something that is this diabolical. All right. So,
Actually, before we proceed, given that we're started talking about the UK, I should probably mention Keir Starmer as well on the list of screws,
oh,
because shortly after the summits in The Hague and the British commitment of 5% to to defense spending, Starmer announced that the British needed to cut their social spending and welfare benefits, and that caused a bit of a riot amongst the members of the Labour Party, and as a result of the soft mutiny, Starmer had to roll back some of the decisions that he announced, which is understandable because Labor, or namely Starmer, doesn't have a lot of options to finance the increased defense commitment. So now he has an unenviable task of actually funding this commitment. But nonetheless, given that politically he had to make a public apology and provide excuses saying that he was too distracted by these events in the Middle East and the NATO summit, that he completely missed the situation that was developing on the domestic front. And that's why I think he should land on this week's list of screws.
yeah. It doesn't mean that he can't migrate into the dude section, correct,
Oh,
Madi?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I actually happen to like the guy. I know a lot of people don't, but okay, I know that he's in a very difficult position, all right, at the current time. But I just hope that perhaps those in labor are trying to work at least to make it all work out. You know what I mean? Sounds a little too banal, but let's now move on to the dudes.
Yes. Obviously, there's a lot of events in the North Atlantic, namely Canada. So I'm going to let you speak because,
I'll, I'll take
yeah,
Canada. You want me to take Canada? Let's start off with
yeah.
Canada. This is where my heart is. Okay, so a part of my heart, it's half half. I put on the dudes, the Canada EU Strategic Partnership of the Future. Okay, that also, okay, a separate treaty that was also signed, protocol that was also signed, the Security and Defense Partnership. I find this unique, and we've been waiting a long time, okay, for this. I know that behind the scenes, Maddie and I have been talking about this with our colleagues for quite a long time, and very happy that Canada will now be, okay, sort of going towards opening its options, all right, uh, for its own security. I'm just going to read out here exactly what, okay, was posted on Mark Carney's, the Prime Minister's website. Canada's new government has a mandate to diversify and strengthen international partnerships. To that end, he took a historic step forward today to deepen Canada's relationship with the European Union through increased cooperation in defense, trade, and commerce will create greater prosperity, security, stability on both sides of the Atlantic. So basically, Canada will also have access to significant defense procurement and industrial opportunities, right, in conjunction with the EU. Let's also recall that at the NATO summit, the Canadian contingent also met with all of the Arctic countries. So this is really, let's say, this is something close to my heart because I've been wanting, okay, I've wanted this kind of relationship, Canada and the EU, for a very, very long time. There are some people that are very upset about this. MAGA, Maple MAGA, okay, isn't too happy, Carney seems intent on moving Canada at full throttle towards Europe at the expense of our relationship with the US, okay? Or, in other words, multi vector for me, but not for thee. So, this is why, okay? This definitely gets let's say for me, top spot. But there are other dudes, okay? We cannot forget that Chancellor Mertz, okay, is on here. Madi, you want to take this one?
Sure, he finally stated that. Well, he finally admitted the mistake of not listening to the Baltic states all along, because in Europe there's a rule of thumb that I like to use. The
Yeah,
closer you are to Moscow, the better you know Russia and the better you understand their foreign policy. So if you're far away from Moscow, you probably don't get it that well. But
yeah,
if you're close and you had a lot of experiences, historical experiences of interacting with Moscow and Moscow's territorial ambitions, you probably have a very good idea of what they're capable or what they're planning to do. So
that's
I should caution, though, even though Mertz made the admission that the Baltic states were right all along, we should we'll keep a track. We'll keep monitoring the situation as to identify whether he actually follows through and keeps on listening.
yes, yes. Well, I mean, look, it's also significant that Germany has now decided to invest almost €1 trillion, okay, in their
Yes.
defense. Let's see if they do, okay, begin, okay, developing that in, let's say, in earnest. This is just for those of you that want the quote. For too long, we in Germany didn't want to hear our Baltic neighbors' warnings about Russia's imperialist policies. We have recognized this mistake, and there is no going back from this realization. So that was it. And also, Mertz, he refused to talk about, okay, he said that basically he doesn't want to talk to Putin, all right, when asked that question, because anytime that anybody talks to Putin, it just brings on more attacks onto Ukrainian civilian targets. He said, if that's the outcome, I'll pass. All right, so that's it. So yeah, we're going to be watching these to see how they develop. All right, in time. In let's say there was a plot. This is the third one. This is for Polish intelligence. All right, who uncovered a plot to kill Zelensky. Okay, this week. A Polish man was charged with aiding a Russian plot to assassinate Zelensky at the Rezhno airport. He had been cooperating with the GRU, and quote unquote, his tasks were to include, among other things, gathering information about the airport itself. This was intended, among other purposes, to assist Russian intelligence services in planning a possible assassination attempt on Zelensky. Okay, this is from the spokesman himself. So I also put this here because I think shout out will be looking at other intelligence, okay, intelligence groups themselves, agencies across Europe, what they're able, okay, to uncover, because there are numerous sabotage acts that are going on. This is just not a one-off case. I'm sure there are many, many more. We know that there are many, many more. So we just wanted to just a shout out to Polish intelligence. Hats off to you guys. Next,
Right. Given that you mentioned G7, we have to mention Macron in Greenland. He went there shortly before the summit. And it's a very significant event because it sends a signal to DC, it sends a signal to Moscow and many other territories or countries that might have territorial ambitions beyond their internationally recognized borders. And the visit was significant, not because he showed up there and opened a French consulate in Greenland, but also because he stated the following. It's important to show that Denmark and Europe are committed to this territory, which has very high strategic stakes and whose territorial integrity must be respected. And he added, Greenland is subject to preying ambitions. Everyone thinks in France and in the EU that Greenland is not to be sold, is not to be taken.
that's right.
Um,
Right.
it sets a good precedent and a good signal. Uh, Interestingly enough, for now, at least, Trump is not saying much about Greenland. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that will change at some point in the future
We'll
because he
see.
likes to going back to the same talking points over and over.
Over and over and over again. Exactly. Now I'm going to move on to the next. Okay, the dudes, the great dudes, all of the protesters in Georgia. Okay, they have been protesting in Georgia since the government, as I said before. Okay, this hooks up with the Shrewds little time beforehand. 213 days. Okay, they've been protesting. And here we're talking across 8 cities in Georgia daily to great expense of themselves because they get arrested. It costs them a lot of money. The actual Georgian Dream-led government is using all of the lawfare, okay, and parliamentary powers in order to quash any kind of action. They're doing it through getting money from these protesters. They arrest them, and then it costs them tons of money to pay off fines, all right, in order to get out of jail. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. So, a big, huge shout out. Okay, shout out to the protesters in Georgia. We see you, okay, and we're going to be doing, say, more action, we hope, in order to influence either our members in the EU Parliament and in, okay, the United States that have forgotten that they have a bill, okay, right on the table, the Megobaria, that they need to work on. Okay, so anybody in the administration is not listening to us, but let's just, one day they do, please get that going. Okay, because the protesters need our support in some way or another. They want they want new elections. They want real elections. Okay, so this is extremely important. Okay,
And it's
last,
important to understand that Georgia has high strategic significance given their geographic location. So it's another country that should not be overlooked, especially considering China's ambitions through the Belt and Road Initiative.
that's right.
All right, final pick from me on the list of dudes. I'm sure that some of the viewers will get upset, but I have to for this week, just for this week, I have to put Trump on the list. Uh, because he ultimately got what he set out to do during his first administration, is to get a Europe-wide commitment to an increase in their defense budgets, minus one country, obviously. Uh, did he achieve it simply because he's a strategic genius and so on and so forth? No. There are other reasons. The most obvious one is Russia and their war against Ukraine. But nonetheless, now he can sell it as a political win on the domestic front. So that is why he's landing on the list of dudes for this week.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like that he's a dude personally, but I did like, okay, that, all right, European NATO members at least have decided, okay, that's it, we're going to commit to this. Hearing, for example, Meloni commit the Italian, let's say, the Italian budget to the 5%, which again, right, what we were saying in the beginning is split, right, between armaments and those kind of developments, but also everything else that's needed in the defense of the nation. I would like to see even more poured into, for example, um, public diplomacy, but also these kind of forms of influence, proper information, okay, that gets out there, and also going after, all right, those networks that do reside in Europe. This is also defense, right? It's information defense that also are spreading, okay, a lot of the narratives that we see, all right, all the time. This was important from another aspect because now, and you know it's important, you know it was significant because they went right on the attack. Okay. NATO is destroying, right? NATO is destroying our future. This is going to be their narrative, a major narrative, okay, as we go forward. All right. Okay, so we've got, let's review just really fast, just the names itself. The Sprudes, we had Orban and Fico, Georgian Dream, okay, Ruta, we had Sanchez, Starmer, Pelteri, and Turkmenistan, okay, as
So,
the Sprudes. So what's your pick this week, Maddie?
it's a tough one.
Let's hear.
I
Oh, it is. This is a tough one. Go ahead.
It's a really tough one because a lot of them screwed up really badly. I think Fico and Orban are a bit of a lazy pick because otherwise, if we keep picking them and we could plan to do the show weekly, they will probably be winning every week. So for this week, I'm going to stick to Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish prime minister. because he refused to commit to the 5% budget, stating that at the current level they could achieve the targets that the objectives that they need. But keep in mind, and I'm speculating, um, Spain recently suffered a wave of hybrid attacks, and I suspect it's Russia. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm talking about blackouts and so on and so forth. So I'm not quite sure how Sanchez views achieving their objectives with the current funding. So that is why he's my top pick for this week.
For the pick. Okay. I was actually going to go with the actual lazy, okay, pick. Simply because they're blocking any kind of action. I'm tired of seeing these countries along with their lobby, because I'm sure that there's a whole huge lobby, all right, that is getting there. Georgian Dream as well, all right, is another one, because we're seeing now really opposition members who are being jailed, right, in large numbers. I mean, this is just flipping. But I would have gone with Orban and Fico simply because it speaks to the defense health, okay, of let's say security of the European, NATO countries, European countries, and the lack of movement that we have going forward in order to address these issues, especially the ones pertaining to blocking Russia. It's almost like we are funding Russia, right, in its war, if we're not taking the right steps to stop it. So this is why is my pick. Okay, into the dudes.
Yes. Um, it's a tough one. Again, I know it sounds cliche, and I really don't want to do it, but I'm gonna. It's a bit of a toss up for me between Trump. I know people don't like it,
All right.
and Canada for me personally.
Mhm.
But given that Trump is doing another thing, which is not Europe centric, he blew up negotiations with Canada. I'm gonna have to go with Canada.
Okay, we're on the same page on this one. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We actually didn't talk about this beforehand. Okay.
Yeah. It
We
is
just said, okay,
it is unscripted. Yes.
exactly. No, I'm going with Canada simply because it is historic. This is the first time that Canada has moved into a different direction, trying, okay, to resolve a lot of its problems in terms of defense and strategy, and also, okay, to increase areas of industry that are important in its own defense. But we're talking energy, we're talking, all of the other things that make up of the tools of statecraft that are necessary. Okay, so that's it. All right, for this week. So we've got the dudes, all right, Canada and the EU strategic partnership. So next week, all right, we'll be taking a look at everything that goes on during the week in terms of people. Because let's remember as well, one thing that sort of spurred us on to this kind of project was segment, let's call it, um, because international relations, everything is made up of people themselves taking those decisions. And there's dynamics that develop between players, right? We're not talking about just a theory. We're looking at the way people are acting, the decisions that they're making. All right, so this is, I think, why this is kind of fun. Okay, actually looking at those figures. One person, by the way, just to finish off, because just a shout out for all my not sick friends out there, peeps. I just want to give a shout out to the Czech, let's say Pavel, because he is just the best. I absolutely adore the guy. He was wearing an ACDC T-shirt. He's a dude, okay, in his own right. Didn't do anything this week, but we'll be keeping an eye on him. Okay.
Well, yeah. At some point, we'll probably have to put his PR manager and social media presence manager on the list because, uh, yeah, he's doing a great. Well, they're doing a great job.
Great job. Yeah, they got him, flying planes, all right, and showing, and he's all dressed up. He's looking really cool. So, yes, yes. Okay, everybody. So that's it. It's a short segment, and we wish everyone a great Sunday. The holidays are here, okay, and I guess it's going to be barbecue time in some areas and just relaxing in the afternoon in others. So, that's it for today. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.